if you have a flat tire, or let's say you never check your tires on your vehicle, one day something could happen with them, right? If you're not checking it, if you're not making a priority to check it, it's going to make you a priority. But if you're analyzing it and say like, hey, maybe I should fill it up, or maybe I should check if it's tight or not, then you're auditing it in a way. So same thing with all these different aspects of your life, the 6Fs, you have to be looking at them and analyzing them, because you can't cheat your way through it. Either they're going to make it a priority one day, or you have to make it a priority first. Let's demystify the health and wellness industry and help you become the most holistically well you. Welcome to Coffee Break, a weekly segment of the podcast Coffee and the 6Fs, brought to you by CrossFit Camrose, where we'll talk about fitness, health, and wellness tips that matter to you. Well, welcome here today, Gates and Tom. How you guys doing?
Good. Doing good. Got my coffee. Couldn't be better.
What are you drinking?
Pretty well. What am I drinking? Just some drip coffee. It's Salt Spring. It's a dark roast. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure anything other than that, to be honest.
Tom?
It's all gone. So
shoot.
I might need to, I drank it all.
Well, what was it?
It was Nabob dark roast espresso.
Nabob. They have a jingle, don't they? Like, isn't there a song to their...
Better beans, better coffee.
There you go. I think
better
we
beans,
should contact
coffee.
them for paid advertising now.
Yep.
I drank a long black, which was, the beans were Kicking Horse. The Three Sisters medium blend.
Oh, the Three Sisters is good.
That's a good one. Yeah. For those of you that don't know, the Three Sisters is actually a mountainscape. Is that how you say it? In Canmore? Mountainscape?
Mountain range or whatever.
Mountain range?
Yeah.
3 mountains. 3 sister mountains. Anyway, we want to talk a little bit today about the title of this podcast, the 6Fs. So the 6Fs being family, faith, fitness, finances, future, freedom. I just ended it like there was another one, but that's all of them. That's 6 of them. A lot of times we talk about fitness, obviously, because we're a gym, like we're CrossFit Camrose. This is sponsored by CrossFit Camrose, so we talk a lot about fitness. But I think with everything that's going on in the world with COVID-19 right now, is people are realizing that, almost forced into realizing that all those matter. All those need to be worked on. And if you think of it like fitness, you need to put time into the gym for your body to adapt and get uncomfortable and grow from that experience. But how often are we all doing that with the other 6Fs or 5Fs? What do you guys think about that?
I totally agree. Yeah, it's you need to be putting energy into all those categories, and it's a little bit different for everyone. Which categories will get more energy or less energy, because it'll be different for everybody, but they do all need to have some sort of an input for sure.
I don't know if you're going to talk about it or not, but the idea of the 6Fs is like, imagine a wheel with 6 different spokes coming out of the center. And like, in order for that wheel to keep moving along steadily, you need to be putting equal pressure on all 6 different areas. If not, if you put more pressure in one area, your wheel is going to be a little bit lopsided and it's going to be a pretty bumpy ride. But the more pressure you can put on each 6 areas, or the 6 areas equally, smoother ride. Not that there aren't going to be bumps in the road, but your wheel is going to be round, and it'll flow a lot smoother than if your wheel itself was a little bit lopsided. So that's the general principle of these 6Fs.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I'd like to add to that wheel analogy is that now you're right. You want to have that even amount of pressure put outwards, but also I'd like to use another analogy about the spokes or something like that, but I don't know if I can come up with one on the spot. But like how Lindsay was explaining how her family spoke would require a lot more energy than her, I don't know, for example, fitness spoke maybe. So like family is a very big part of her life. So more of her energy goes into that, but she can kind of keep her wheel still rounded because in her list of priorities, it still has an even amount of pressure.
And
does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, like it's more, it's individualized too, right? Like it depends where you are in your life too. My fitness spoke might not look the same as someone else's. And if you take someone else's and say, well, they're doing this, well, I need to do that. No, it needs to be individual. And I think to add on to the analogy, not to make it this big, confusing thing, but in the center, you need to have like what the bigger vision, the bigger goal is, right? If you're there's nothing in the middle to attach these 6 spokes, then it can all fall apart too, right? So if you take it in the idea of a business, for example, to make it an easy concept, that's why vision in a business is so important. It's something that you're not actually going to reach. So let's say I said it again, the vision of CrossFit Camrose is to help people become holistically well so they can make a positive impact on the world. Now, how are we going to do that? Or when do we know when we've reached that? We don't, but that's at the center, and everything else in the gym will spread off of that. So like personally, that would be like having a purpose. You have a purpose in your life, and that is the guide of it all, right? So like having a faith, so we like God. For us, that's God, like that purpose from there. So then that doesn't, like Tom was saying, it doesn't mean it's going to be like perfectly roll. And now we can see that with everything changing, if you haven't been putting pressure on those spokes, you were made to put pressure. Because here's another analogy I have thought about before. If you have a flat tire, or let's say you never check your tires on your vehicle, one day something could happen with them, right? If you're not checking it, if you're not making a priority to check it, it's going to make you a priority. But if you're analyzing it and say like, hey, maybe I should fill it up, or maybe I should check if it's tight or not, then you're auditing it in a way. So same thing with all these different aspects of your life, the 6 F's. You have to be looking at them and analyzing them, because you can't cheat your way through it. Either they're going to make it a priority one day, or you have to make it a priority first. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, for sure, it's kind of like you're just doing upkeep. You're keeping an eye on everything, making sure everything that, you're not getting too distracted with your fitness or with your freedom or your family even, because again, it's good to spend time with your family, but you need to make sure that you are putting the pressure on those other areas, because if you do focus on only one thing, one of those other areas could not necessarily collapse, but you could have an issue over there because you were just, putting your intention somewhere else.
Yep.
Yeah, to come up with like a specific example, I think we've used the one of fitness before. Like if you are neglecting your fitness and nutrition for a long time, sicknesses could all of a sudden come around, and then now all of a sudden you're sick and you're like, oh man, I need to make fitness and health a priority now. Whereas if you had been doing it and putting a focus on it the whole time, you maybe would have never gotten to that point. But I believe we talked about this on another podcast as well, about how you don't know what you're going to be preventing if you are constantly working on it, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean, or I guess you don't know if you prevented diabetes. You don't know if you prevented your cancer. You don't know if you prevented your heart disease. The only way you're going to know it becomes a priority, unless you start it from a early onset, is if that issue manifests itself later on.
Yeah.
I hope that made sense.
No,
I sounded like I butchered that, but
no.
No, it made sense.
I think, and to expand on that, like oftentimes we think we can do grand gestures in aspects of our life. Like there's some really big interventions out there for medicine, right? Or the one I like to use as an analogy is, how often do we use vacations as an escape from our normal life, right? When I think what they should be is just an extension to experience life, experience the world. But what's happened now is that we're trying to escape our normal life and get a breather. But what if you did something small every single day, like a mini vacation, or you had a moment in the morning that you had that, and then you can start to think about that in every aspect of life, like family. Like, are you going to say, or just get this grand gift for your spouse or significant other once a year? Or are you going to do the small things every single day that actually makes a bigger difference? The hard thing about that, like you said, Tom, is that it's harder to see that making an effect right away. But oftentimes we don't see an effect until it's a negative effect in those aspects, right? It's really easy to say, hey, I got this grand gift for you. It made you happy, but I haven't put time and effort every single day consistently. So the only time I'm going to notice it, just like in health, is when disease starts to come through. And then we expect, and we start looking for these interventions that, like medicine or anything else like that, instead of prioritizing those good things like the 6Fs.
That's maybe where like a disease can, in relation to like finance or material things, can come into. Like I think that's what this whole scenario has been good for, maybe, is realizing that how tied to either like our job or how tied to material things we actually were, and now all of a sudden we're not allowed to get out as much, or maybe you're worried about buying something from somewhere else because it's going to come and might have some COVID on it or something like that. You might get the virus from something imported. So I think it's really bringing people back, or I hope it's bringing people back to focus more on those small little things, the non-materialistic things, and the small everyday things like you talked about, that are going to make the bigger difference in the long run in your relationships with the people that you care about the most. So.
Yep. I agree. I think what's probably happening right now, some people have these big, beautiful things sitting in their driveway, or not to sound judgy. I'm just saying, like, they're now realizing that doesn't give them any value back, right? Not to say that can't give value, but it's only as valuable as you can share it with someone. We were just chatting this morning before this call when we had our Bible study that, what was I going? I lost it. It's gone.
You were talking about the value in something is if you can share it with others.
Yeah. So talking about,
and how much more you can enjoy it.
Yeah. Like, we all love The Office, right? All three of us. And Tom was using the example that you can sit and watch The Office, you're going to laugh. But when you're sitting with someone and sharing it and laughing with them, it gets that much better. Same thing when you share food with someone, or go on a date with someone. Like, you can't really date yourself. It just becomes that much better. And that's what we're also being forced to do, is realize that this is better shared. Like, we don't eat meals as a family anymore. We don't take time. We're all so busy. And now it's been like, no more busyness. This is, people matter. People are important. And in reality, that's what we're all trying to do, is provide for our families. But we've lost sight of families and friends, right? We've lost sight of them in the process, which is really confusing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's really been kind of made clear, I think, to a lot of people now, especially with social distancing and self-quarantine and stuff like that. Now that we can't just go out and see whoever we want to see whenever we want to see them, it kind of shows that maybe we did take that for granted a little bit, and we didn't realize how much we appreciated it until it was gone, right? Or at least restricted. So
yeah.
And now I know, like, for us at least, it's becoming a priority to try to, when it was like so readily available, it didn't seem like it was as much of a priority to like go talk to friends or maybe talk to your family, get them on the phone, get them on Zoom. But now it's a lot more like, okay, we need to stay in touch. We need to check in with everybody. We need to see what's going on, how everyone's doing.
Yeah.
And that's become a bigger priority now for us. I know, at least, like, I don't think I've talked to a couple people that I can think of, like, haven't seen them as much, or haven't seen them as much in the past. And in the last couple weeks, I've chatted with them 2 or 3 times on the phone. Like, it's just,
Yeah.
I think it's there's a lot of good things that are coming from this and making us realize a lot of really good things.
Yep. And Jaleesa asked me the question when we went for a walk yesterday. She's like, what do you think we're supposed to learn from this? And my thought was, honestly, whatever we take from it, right? We can't be forced to learn anything, but we have to have the ability to look at something and be like, let me say it this way. I think a lot of people are going to realize the importance of the important things, not the urgent things. But then what's going to happen once this all clears is they're going to go right back to what they were doing before, which would be not ideal, right? Like, if you can't take an experience and learn from it and apply it, and that is why, so that's like, I was talking with someone about, I think it was a Facebook Live video. I was saying, hey, we're going to make a list of books for you guys to read. These are our favorite books, but they're only as valuable as you take action on them. I think people read books and then are like, that's a good idea. Or they go through an experience like this and like, oh, I understand now, but they don't actually apply it or take action on it, which then becomes invaluable.
Yeah, well, it's like that saying that I've heard you say it, that a great idea is worth nothing if it's not applied or shared, right? Like, if you have this awesome idea, but you don't take action on it and you just leave it in the back of your brain, it's worthless, you know?
Did I say that? Wow.
And I think that was you.
Cool.
Good job.
It's that whole knowledge isn't power, action is power.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I'm just starting this book. I think Two Brains sent it to us, the mentoring business, Anti-Fragile. That's not actually a word, but it talks about how there's I'm just like 2 pages in, but there's things and people that are anti-fragile and actually make a difference in a time like this, right? It goes along the topic of being proactive, not reactive, being able to pivot your business, pivot your life, because you're not tied to individual aspects of it, if that makes sense.
There's that greater purpose or that why behind what you're doing. And no matter what hand you're dealt, you're able to find a way to still do that why or serve that why. Yep. And then can keep moving forward.
Yep. This has been good. It was impromptu, like a little chat, but I think there's a lot of good points in there. Anything else you guys want to? Here's an analogy that just came to my mind. Okay, so now we understand the flywheel, right? Let's think of it a wheel with some spokes. You need to put pressure. Every spoke needs to be strong so it can roll forward and be round. But we also have to think about there has to be pressure, external pressure outside of it, right? Like something that is pushing on you. And if you shy away from it and don't push back or don't lean into that pressure, again, it's not going to work. So I think a lot of people are being put into situations where they have to be uncomfortable. And we all have been given gifts to make the world a better place or to help the world. But I think a lot of us have hidden our gifts out of fear of being ridiculed, looked at, failing, whatever it is. I think fear is in the middle of growth and utilizing your gifts. What do you guys think?
Or just waiting for, like, fear of it, yeah. And then, I guess that ties into like waiting for the right time to do something too. Like if you're trying to get everything perfect before you maybe launch your business, or you're trying to get everything perfect before you start your fitness routine, like you're like, it's just not the right time. I gotta wait till everything's aligned and I've got the time and everything's perfect. You're kind of doing that out of fear because you're like, well, if this if this isn't perfect, I'm going to fail.
Right.
Or you might be thinking that if this isn't perfect, I'm going to fail. But it's also just an excuse to not get started.
Yep.
So, like you said, push into it, lean into it.
Lean into that pain. Gates, you're going to touch on something too?
I was, hey, on that.
You're about to say, that's fine if you weren't.
No, I might have, but it's not there anymore. Yeah, you keep going. If it comes back to me, I'll throw it out there.
Yeah, I think big key concepts here are, you can't be, I shouldn't say can't. You can't be comforted if you're not uncomfortable. If that makes sense. I think what's happened as well is that we've been so comfortable in lots of aspects of our life. Everything's convenient, right? Food's convenient. Connection, or I guess what we think connection is, convenient. But now we're seeing that it's flipped upside down. You actually have to, we are called to grow as people, and you can't grow without being uncomfortable. Like, think of it as simply as we have not found a way, well, maybe we have, to grow muscle without some sort of discomfort or breakdown of the tissue. So that key principle and concept goes along with other aspects. No, go ahead now, Gates.
Well, and it's that whole thing about we need a little bit of stress to drive us forward, right? Like if we had no stress and there was not necessarily no urgency, but it's stress that keeps us pushing along, right? Keep like continuing education or bettering ourselves in some way or another. Because if we just had no timelines, no goals, nothing that would motivate us, no stress, then we would not have nearly as much desire to keep pushing ourselves forward. And it's like how in these last 2 weeks that we've been prepping the gym for the virus, or the steps that we might have to take, you saw how much growth there was in the gym and programs that we offered. And it happened so fast because we had that stress to really drive us along. So it absolutely is necessary that there's got to be discomfort for there to be growth. Totally.
Yeah. And there has to be like a common cause. And that's the reason why having a vision or a why for an institution or your personal family is so important, because now we can see why this vision is so important. And once this group of people are surrounded by this bigger why they're doing it, then they accomplish things so fast. And that's what I was saying. I'm a little upset myself because I've accomplished way more. I guess we've accomplished way more in 5 days than we did in a year. And that's not to say that we didn't do stuff, but it's just like that external circumstance. Yeah. And then I had a thought about the book Infinite versus Finite Games by Simon Sinek. He talks about, I think it's at the end, I can't remember. He notes that there's 2 ways that people change or understand they need to grow. One is they have the ability to be self-aware and analyze and be like, no, I need to grow. Or a very big, impactful thing, good or bad, will force it on them, right? You can't really hide from it. And now that we're seeing that, this big, impactful, forceful thing is kind of forcing us to be like, what am I prioritizing in my life? So maybe I'll just drop that right there.
There you
go. I like that.
Cool. Well, this has been awesome. Impromptu. Is that a word? Impromptu? Impromptu. It was impromptu. No, that doesn't make sense, does it?
Impromptu session.
Okay, Gates, can you leave us with a funny joke?
Yeah, it's like 3 minutes long and it's not that funny, but I can tell a joke.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay.
Bring some joy to us.
Okay. So there is this frog. All right. And this frog wants to get a bank loan. So the frog goes to the bank and he says to the teller, and the teller's name is Paddywhack. He says, "Excuse me, but I need a bank loan." He needs the money, doesn't explain why. maybe he needs a loan for his house, buy a car, something like that. Doesn't matter. But she says, okay, yeah, I can give you a bank loan, but I'm gonna need some collateral. I need something from you. We can't just give away money for free, right? So the frog says, okay, all right, I can do that, but I've only got one thing. I've only got one thing I can give you for collateral. So he pulls this thing out, and it's kind of hard to explain what this thing is. You're just looking at it. You're not really sure what it is, but it's just a thing. It's kind of weird, but it's a thing. And Paddywhack says to the frog, well, yeah, I don't really know what that is. I'm gonna have to talk to my manager. I can't just take this thing if I don't know what it is. So she takes the thing, she shows it to her manager, and she says, listen, there's this frog out there, and he wants a bank loan, but he's only got this thing for collateral, and I don't know what it is. And the manager says, well, it's a knick-knack, Paddywhack, give the frog a loan. Oh, it's so bad. So yeah, that's how we'll end it. Sorry for wasting your time.
When you said Paddywhack, I was like, is it a bone or?
No. Yeah, it's a knick-knack, Paddywhack. Give the frog a loan.
Well, I enjoyed that.
Good,
you know
I'm
why,
glad you did.
You know why we enjoyed it is because we all laughed together. If you had just told me individually, I'd be like, well, I don't know about that one.
But we shared it with Tom.
We shared it with Tom.
Well, you'd told us about it before we even named a workout, a joke about a frog, and it was supposed to be a talking point in class, but I'd never heard it before.
Well, I was gonna share it with all the coaches, but then I decided, first of all, I'd have to put you all through hearing it, and then you would all have to memorize it, which would take up valuable brain space, and then you would have to share it with the members, and I kind of thought it'd be a bit of a train wreck class after class. So
it would just take some of the fitness up, I guess.
Yeah,
fitness time.
That's right.
But I did enjoy it. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything you guys want to close off with before we sign out?
Close off with, I don't think so. I think after that frog joke, I've said all I need to say.
Here, I should have done this. I'm going to hope I know what the right one is.
Yeah.
There you go.
That joke landed with the crowd.
I thought it was going to be the laugh track, but that's pretty good.
Whoops.
Well, fellas, thanks for joining.
Totes. Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us in today's show, everyone. If you found this beneficial for yourself, feel free to share it with family, friends, or anyone you think might benefit from it as well. We want to help as many people as we can become holistically well so that they can make a positive impact in the world. Check you next time.